Welcome to Transcendence Talks podcast. I'm here today with a guest, Wind, and I'm going to read you a little intro that I wrote for her today. So today's guest is Wind. She is a holistic wellness practitioner. She's a Reiki master, an intuitive medium, and the creator of the Cosmic Blueprint. Her work bridges science and spirituality, helping people understand the connection between the body, mind, energy, and their purpose. With a background in fitness and movement, Wynn developed a deep awareness of how the body holds emotional and energetic patterns, an understanding that expanded into holistic healing after a profound personal loss. Now, she works with clients through Reiki, somatic awareness, intuitive energy reading, and vibrational acoustic therapy, guiding people to release tension, regulate their nervous system, and reconnect with themselves. She's also the creator of the Cosmic Blueprint, a powerful soul map that blends astrology, human design, gene keys, numerology, and intuitive insight to help people navigate change and step into their purpose. If you're in a season of transformation, this conversation is for you. Welcome, Wind.
Nice to be here.
Awesome. So I would just like to dive in. I mean, I think like most people, it sounds like your catalyst for growth came from a loss. And I think for so many of us, kind of that process of consciousness evolution starts with grief or trauma or, kind of like that rock bottom. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what that was for you, that catalyst.
Yeah, so it started for me with the loss of my mom. I had always felt called to like astrology and things of that nature, but when my mom suddenly got sick, she had some pre-existing health conditions, nothing that should have taken her life, but unfortunately I saw in her when somebody truly gives up on life and is ready to leave, not even consciously but subconsciously. And so when she got sick, it was within 2 weeks that she was gone. She ended up having cancer, which showed up after a previous surgery. So 3 months after the surgery, where nothing showed up at all, there was not a trace of cancer, because they do a lot of tests before they bring you in for surgery. Fast forward 3 months, and I brought her in. She had lost a bunch of weight, and she told me before she even got test results, she said, "You know that I have cancer." And I said, "No, what are you talking about, Mom?" And when the test results came back, she had stage 4 cancer, and there was just masses in all different parts of her body. And through like being with her every day and seeing her like slowly like deteriorate and eventually pass on, I went through this immense grief that I didn't know. I didn't have any coping mechanisms. I didn't know how to deal with it. And so I fell into old habits, what was modeled to me, which was a lot of substance abuse, just numbing, and I hit rock bottom, totally hit rock bottom, just overdoing it, not wanting to deal with reality. I ended up wanting to get a divorce because my ex-husband now, and I had pre-existing issues in our relationship, and between everything else, I just couldn't handle life at all. From that divorce, and I have 2 children, it really pushed me to show up again, because I had to show up for them and for moving forward with my life. And that's when I started, actually, my first modality was using plant medicine and psilocybin. I did it on my own, not like in ceremony or anything. And that led me to meeting people that were Reiki practitioners. So I had Reiki sessions done on myself, and I never thought during those sessions that, oh yeah, this is something I want to do. I just wanted to figure out what was going on with me and how I could move forward and feel better. And when my mom died, I made a decision that I wanted to be able to talk to her again, because I knew she might have been gone from here, but she wasn't gone.
Absolutely.
Her energy. Yeah, I got a lot of signs. There was a lot of signs afterwards. And so I was like, I'm going to find a way to talk to her, and just tried a lot of different holistic wellness modalities. I went to Mexico eventually and did an ayahuasca ceremony. And all of my experiences were what led me to this place now. And they were very profound, like realizing that we're so much more than this body that we're living in, existing in. realizing there's so much more around us that we just can't see, realizing that I can find ways to communicate with my mom again. And it opened up, it was like a whole new world.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was just so excited again.
There was just this study released about how when you take a plant medicine, whether it's ayahuasca or psilocybin, that GABA in your brain is reduced, and it's the reduction in GABA that helps you see the unseen. They say that GABA is the chemical in the brain that acts as like the filter between this reality and the other dimensions of reality. And I thought that was so interesting because I don't think anything that we experience in plant medicine is a hallucination. I think the veil lifts. And so
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering, we obviously have experiences in the medicine, but then I also feel like the medicine builds this bridge between the constructs we understand, and then a bridge to maybe believing that more is possible. And I think we have to do the
Yeah.
work then to walk across that bridge and bring our awarenesses back into this third dimensional reality. So I'm kind of wondering, how did you do that, for yourself?
So I really enjoyed everything that I was learning. Like I ended up having random downloads of the star system that I originated in. Just I was like, why am I looking at Orion's belt? And like then I'm looking at these videos. I had gotten these tattoos, the Eye of Ra and the Eye of Horus, and everything culminated and came together, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's where I'm from. And that kind of prompted me to go deeper into a lot of the astrology, like the Western and Vedic astrology. I was really curious about human design through some podcasts that I had listened to, and just all of the systems. I wanted to know everything about myself. And through that I was able to take what I was experiencing myself and put words to it, because I think a lot of times we have this intuitive knowing about ourselves, right? About who we are and how we show up, but sometimes we question it. Like we question, oh, really am I like that? Or so I came up with my version of the cosmic blueprint, which takes all aspects and different systems like Western astrology, Vedic astrology, human design, gene keys, some sacred geometry, even like some astrocartography stuff.
Wow.
And I put it into this system to help validate and put words to what people always feel within themselves, because we are multidimensional and we do have all these different feelings and aspects of self that a lot of times we end up pushing down because it doesn't fit this perfect pathway mold that we've been told that we need. Oh yeah, this is who you are. You are just this. Like we are so much. And the system allows people to see all the multifaceted parts of themselves. And I did it obviously for myself first. And then I was like, my goodness, I have to share this with people. Like, I have to share this work, because if other people knew about this, it would help them so much. And it would help validate how they feel, and allow them to become more conscious of themselves.
It's so true. And I think that's what I see shifting on our planet the most at this time is people becoming aware of their multidimensionality in so many different ways, and also of our cosmic origins. And I know for me with plant medicine, that was one of the first things that opened up too, was this awareness of we are so much more than just humans. And we've essentially descended from the stars to take on these earthly incarnations to have a just different experience than we have in these other planes of reality. You're right. It's almost like we dismiss concepts or ideas or visions that we have if we don't have a framework for them. So it's like, I think what you're giving people the framework of understanding, and it validates people's deepest inner knowings that they might have just dismissed or ignored because they didn't have anything contextual to put it in.
Yeah. Yeah. And people, like, they tell me, oh my gosh, I've never felt so seen. And I knew this about myself. So it's helpful too, because it'll tell you we all have, different parts of self which we can't express in the shadow version of that, or the gift. It's up to us to decide. And especially based on being here on earth, you have that duality. And when you see the highest potential of yourself before you in your personal like soul map and the traits of yourself, I feel like a lot easier to say, okay, now I really recognize I want to do the shadow work. Like I want to move from this to that. Like, I want to be in the gift form. And you're able to consciously recognize when you're falling into those patterns, because we all get into patterns of life, whether it's our daily rituals and routines. And the more conscious you become, the more you recognize your patterns and how you can continue to evolve and grow. You don't have to stay in the same pattern for your whole life. You can move forward, but a lot of times we don't know how, and how are we going to do that?
So true. And I think it feels like seeing that perspective, the shadow and the light, the gift and, you know, the wound, that polarity would really help reduce shame for people too, because sometimes we just feel shame. We feel like, oh, I have this issue or this problem or this trauma. But when you can really see, no, it's in that deepest, darkest cave of that
Yeah.
wound where your treasure really lies. It's like you just have to kind of excavate it. I think it gives people, like you said, a path forward, and you have to reduce shame, otherwise you stay so stuck in those cycles.
Yeah, it's true. And even for me, doing the work yourself can be challenging. I'm still, and I feel like forever, the journey of life, I will be doing the work for myself so that I can continue to grow. I've recognized shame is huge, especially, I do feel like, especially for women and especially around certain subjects, and a lot of which I didn't realize was living within me. And only now, I mean, I'm 39 years old. I'm just getting into this place where I feel comfortable with like intimacy and with my sexuality. And I don't feel the shame like I used to for what I like and for what I'm feeling inside and for what pops into my head. And before, I used to almost, you start, judging yourself, and you feel bad. And learning to break out of that is like, it's a different type of freedom.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's probably the most beautiful thing about that like fourth decade of life, you know, like end of your 30s, coming into your 40s
Yeah.
and beyond, is settling deeper into the body is what it feels like, finding home or finding safety in the body where maybe it didn't exist before, and activating like sexuality at a deeper level. I mean, it's such a gift.
Yeah. Yeah, feeling safe in the body is so important for us to make any changes in our life. And I use that principle in my practice and with my clients, because a lot of times we mentally want to make the change. We have the knowing, but it's a matter of, we have these things stuck within us and that we've been holding on to. And so, even if our mind is ready, our body might not be. Our nervous system tenses up. We fall into the pattern without even realizing it, because our body doesn't feel safe anymore. This hasn't been safe our entire life. So, teaching the safety, like how to feel safe in your body, to regulate your nervous system, is so important. And I didn't realize, like, through my life, I was always very physically active, like with movement. And I worked for a long time in the field of fitness as a personal trainer, teaching group classes, working with women. And that was building confidence and like aesthetically looking really good. So that's kind of where it started. And now I feel like I realized it's so connected with energy work. It's so connected with our energy centers and the movement of stuff energy and creation of safety in the body just through movement, all different types of movement, that it's just beautiful. It's like there's so many ways to learn to be safe in your body, but moving the energy, I feel, fast tracks us. If we can learn to feel safe and regulate and move the energy, then we can be safe enough to start making the changes that our mind is looking to make.
Yeah, so let's go back to that with you, right? I mean, you had talked about growing up in a house where it was normal to run away from those feelings, to numb. And it sounds like after your mom passed was really that time in your life where you had to sit with those emotions and learn that safety in your body. At what point did you notice that relationship between excavating the trauma and clearing that out and watching your gifts really come online spiritually? Because you mentioned mediumship and kind of connected to these galactic consciousnesses inside of you. So, what was that evolution like?
So I would say it really did start after my first ayahuasca ceremony. I feel like that really cracked me open, and in a way where my body felt like I just physically felt a shift. Actually, let me go back. I had a session with this woman who speaks light language and works with the Galactics. She did an energy healing on me, like a virtual, and that was the spark. That was the spark, because during that, it was my first time I had done Reiki. I had never, worked with somebody that speaks light language. And she said, this is my process. Just sit, relax. If you want, you can close your eyes. And I'm going to work with the energy in your body. So she started, and I sat there, and I wasn't crying, but I was crying. Like, physically, I was just pouring tears. They were just pouring down my face, and I felt all in my heart chakra, like all these different feelings and this movement. And the tears just kept coming. And at the end, I felt lighter. Like, I could physically feel the difference. What really showed me what happened was I went to dinner with some friends later that day. So for me, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll be fine. I'm going to go to dinner, have a glass of wine. I'm going to have a really nice dinner. And so I meet with my friends, and we're sitting there, and they're talking, and I have a sip of wine, and we're talking, and I started feeling so sick. I was like, what's going on? So I had to run to the bathroom, and I got really sick and had a release. And then I went back to the table, and it happened 3 times. And after that, I went home. I was in bed for 24, 48 hours, just sick, very sick. And I reached out to her, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. Said, after our session, like, I got really sick. And she's like, oh yeah, that's normal. Like, your body's cleansing itself, and you're having all these physical releases. It's just part of it. You have to let your body rest. So that's when it really began. And that's when I started disconnecting a lot from substances, even like drinking, and realizing how it wasn't helping. Yeah. It just wasn't helping me. And all of these other things, I'm like, I felt so much better after working with her. I wanted to explore that more. And that was the very beginning. Then I did do the ayahuasca ceremony, which really amplified it. And the more I worked with energy and with the plants, the more I felt really good. And I feel really good on a daily basis, where I feel like a higher vibration within myself. And I noticed anytime I would have a drink, I felt worse, which was complete opposite of the way my entire life had gone prior. Usually I would say, oh, I'm going to go have a glass of wine and relax and enjoy myself. But I wasn't finding that to be true anymore. I was finding that working with energy, connecting with people, like connecting with plants, that even flowers, I had a flower shop for a short period of time. I felt so uplifted and like excited and joyful.
Wow.
And yeah, it was
clear.
Incredible.
Like, that's not clear guidance. I don't know what is. Like, you're going to think, and you're physically going to get sick. It's like there's no delay. This is just what's happening, just to make sure you're
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you ultimately get the opportunity to connect with your mom?
So I did. When I did my Reiki 2 certification, there was part of her process, my Reiki master at the time, where she knew I expressed this to her, that I really wanted to connect with my mom again. So during that part, she was like, we're going to connect with your mom, and you're going to call her in, and let's just see what happens. So I did. I called her in. Well, I talked to her regularly anyways, but this was different. So I called her in, and it's really interesting because I feel like we think in our mind what we anticipate the experience to be like, and that's not necessarily what it is. I felt this coldness, like this cold energy, like I had my hands out. And when I connected with her and I was seeing her in my mind's eye, I could feel like the coldness in my hands. And I got there and she was there and I'm like, I love you. And then I didn't even know what to say. Cause I was like, I mean, it was like almost like we just stood there. Well, I was sitting, but we were connected there. And it was overwhelming almost. Like I didn't really know what to say or do. And I was just saying like, I love you. And then my Reiki master was kind of like waiting. So then she kind of guided me out of it and asked me about my experience. And I said, I got really cold and I saw her and we were holding hands and I told her I loved her. And then I told her that it was okay, like if she wanted to go. And that was pretty much the whole experience. But since then, I feel like I can talk to her anytime and I can hear her like in my mind when like we can just have a conversation. That's that way. And she gives me and she gives me the guidance and the things that I'm looking for in the moment. And she comes through a lot through my like electronics in my car. Oh, really? Like randomly. Yeah, and I've had like 2 or 3 cars since she passed. Every single one, it's the same thing. It's like the button you have to press to get it to prompt. I don't touch anything. I'll be driving, and especially if I'm talking about something specific, like with one of my sons, all of a sudden it'll pop on and be like, what can I help you with? And I'm like, oh, hi, Mom.
That's awesome. Do your boys know that it's her too? Are they like, oh, hey?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's go back to this blueprint. So, how did you come up with a way to combine all these modalities? I had a download the other day, and it was from this Andromedan being, and she said she was non-corporeal, and she said, that's why they created the Milky Way, is because the Andromedan people wanted a more corporeal experience. She looked like she was just made of stars. She was so beautiful. She looked like stardust. And
yeah,
have you seen them? Like stunning. And so she said though that, like, trying to figure out how to explain this, just like we're all aspects, fractals of God, we're also fractals or aspects of the celestial beings or the stars. And so she told me that astrology is actually just a way for the stars to express and experience a corporeal existence through us too. So just like we're made of stardust, the stars are us. And just like God is, it's almost like this Russian nesting doll existence where we're all kind of housed within. And I was like, oh, I've never thought of that before. And so it just made me fall even more deeply in love with astrology. I already find so much value in it in my life for guidance and to really understand when things feel hard or I feel like life's been challenging. I could look to my solar return and say, okay, well, this is why. It's because Pluto is on my 10th house and it's impacting my career. And so things are shifting and changing and rebirthing. And so it helps me understand. I chose that, to experience that at this time. Right. I can navigate it. But what I'm wondering is, how did you figure out a way to combine these things to make it into this blueprint? I'm fascinated.
So after learning each individually, I'm always looking for how the pieces work together, because we are so multifaceted. Even when just learning about astrology, your sun sign, that's the first thing I learned. That's the only thing I really knew up until the last 5 years was my sun sign. I didn't know about my moon or my rising, and I didn't know about, pretty much any of the aspects, all the different, your 12 houses and all of that. And there's so much detail within each part. And then I moved on to human design, and you have the different profile types. You could be a projector, you could be a generator. There's so many, there's 4 or 5 of them. And then there's, the type, and then there's the way your energy moves through the different systems. And then the gene keys is directly connected to that, and it tells you what your gifts are. I felt intuitively that, like, if we could take all of these systems and see what they, almost like a language of you, like, what does it mean all together? Like, how can they cross over, and how does my human design and my astrology aspects work together? So it was just through my own curiosity, and I have used some AI to kind of take what I've found and interpret the data at like crossing it over, like as a crossover. If I'm all of this, then I can ask a specific question and it'll tell me based off of all of this what's going on, or like how they work together. And so that's pretty much how I did it. I took all the systems, I learned about myself in all systems, and then I wanted to learn how do these work together? They must work together.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's wild, right? It's like really the universe, it's all mathematical. It's all
and it is all math.
Yeah. And when you start to really study these systems, you see it. You're like, oh, there's a mathematical formula equation that kind of makes my whole life make sense. I'm curious your perspective.
And I thought that was really fascinating, the mathematical part, because I love English, I love reading, I love books, I love writing. I've written poetry like my whole life. I still have some from when I was really young. I love it. But math, I'm like, it's not my favorite. Yeah. So, and then I was woken up in the night 2 different times by who I later found out was Metatron. Wow. And it happened after my second ayahuasca ceremony. There was a man there working with the tree of life, and I was really drawn to him. And he was dancing and moving, and he had done many ceremonies. And afterwards, I started being woken up in the night, like middle of the night, and like had these thoughts of different geometrical figures. I'm like, why am I thinking of this? And then I was like, oh my gosh, I think it's because of him, because he was working with the tree of life. So I reached out to him and I said, ever since our ceremony, this is happening. And he said, you should read this book. It's by Ramtha, and it's all about the brain. It's the book. The name is escaping me right now. There's a bird on the cover and there's a sacred geometric shape, and it's just all about how our brain is the receiver and how we can create our life and how we are the creators. And so all of these different things were coming up having to do with sacred geometry, and then I'm running into things that have to do with autism and how these geometrical figures could be helpful for them. And I'm like, where is this going? And so it was kind of during that type of process, but I was like, I don't like math. I was very, very surprised that the math and the sacred geometry came in for me, because that was totally unexpected. But I work with Metatron every single day. Metatron is like my main like guide that I call on to help transmute any energy, like anything that's going on. If I feel certain things and I want to like cleanse and have something removed, or I always call on Metatron, and that's just, it surprises me still.
Wow. Yeah. For our listeners who maybe would like to clear something in their lives, or maybe are up against something challenging right now, would you mind sharing like how you work with Metatron to clear those things?
Very simple. So I, first thing in the morning, definitely before bed, or like I did right before this session, I'll just say I remove any energy that does not belong to me. And I almost do like a sweeping or a brushing all over, all the way down to my toes. And then I say I send it out to Metatron to be transmuted and sent back with love. And then I just call my power back into me. And that's the one that I do every single day, every single morning.
I love that practice. It's so simple, but I swear it doesn't need to be anything more. It's so profound too, because I think it's intention, right? I feel like intention is the driver of consciousness. So just having the clear intention to connect with Metatron, to have him transmute that energy and to brush it off of you is so incredibly powerful. And we forget about our energetic hygiene sometimes. We remember to take a shower, but we forget to wash off the energy of the day,
Yeah. And showering does really help though, because water is it's cleansing, and it helps cleanse the energy fields around us.
Absolutely. That's actually where I probably remember my energetic hygiene the most, because I feel like I connect best in water too, to my own intuition. I get a lot of downloads in the shower. And so that's the time too, where I just like to set the intention of the water cleansing me and letting the water do what water does.
Yeah.
Because the day gets away with us sometimes, and we just forget those energy hygiene basics.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have this beautiful way of combining all these things and then kind of laying it out for people to help them understand themselves better. And so do you combine that with your gifts of mediumship, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So when I have clients come in, I have a couple different offerings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes people come in and they just want to do the vibroacoustic therapy. So that's special equipment that combines vibrational resonance and sound healing. What it does is the bed vibrates. And so the cells in the body can all vibrate at the same frequency. They can communicate more effectively. The nervous system is prompted to relax and go into that parasympathetic rest, relax, repair. So the body's fully relaxed. And then through the headphones, you have the sound healing portion, which helps guide your mind into the alpha and theta brainwave state. So it's very immersive, especially for people that have trouble meditating, people that have sleep issues, people that just really have a hard time regulating, whether they believe in energy medicine or not. It's really a great modality for them because there's science behind it. They can kind of understand, they can feel it, it's tangible. Yeah. A lot of times people have trouble because they're looking for something tangible. They can see it, they can feel it, they can smell it, whatever the case. So that's the starting point. Then I offer Reiki because I am a Reiki master, and that's dealing with the chakras, the energy systems in the body, and me just being a conduit to allow like the Reiki energy to help anything stuck within their energy systems kind of flow through. And then I do the Cosmic Blueprint experience. And so what that is a combination of both. So I have people start with the vibroacoustic therapy. We move into Reiki. And it's during the Reiki sessions that I feel the connection with their guides. Yeah. And I'm shown, like sometimes I'm shown people's childhoods, like certain scenes from their childhood. I had a woman and I just saw her outside with her dad, like going in the woods and like a lot of outdoor activity, and her dad had recently passed. And I asked her, I'm like, did you spend a lot of time outside as a kid? I really think that that's what your body's calling for. And she's like, oh yeah, I did everything outside with my dad. And then I've had people who have had loved ones that recently passed. Usually they show up, and there will be, sometimes it's words, sometimes I see like pictures, but I always, like, my biggest gift is empathetic body awareness of energy. So before I even go into session with somebody, sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and I'll maybe have a tickle in my throat, or my throat all of a sudden will be scratchy, or I'll have some like heaviness in my heart chakra in my chest, or like my left arm like will feel funny. And then when they come in and I connect with them and their energy, I'll feel it more intensely. And that will be a prompt for me to say, hey, you know, this is what's happening in this chakra center, and this is what it's related to. Usually it's related to something emotional, and it could potentially be related to a certain person. And if it is, then during the Reiki session, that will come through, and I'll see something or someone or a word will come forth. And then I remember everything, and I go through from the crown all the way down to the root as I'm talking to them, and I say, you know, you have energy stuck here, and I feel like it's related to this, and this is the message that came through behind it. And it always resonates. It still surprises me, honestly. Yeah. Like it's wild that, yeah. And then sometimes I will do a meditative mediumship while they are doing the vibroacoustic therapy session. So I'll sit there and intentionally connect with their energy and whatever needs to come through. And I listen to the Jose Silva alpha frequency. Yeah. For all of those, I find that I'm able to quickly get there and things come through.
Oh, that's amazing. What a cool life hack.
Yeah. So that's what's worked for me so far.
Yeah, I love that so much. That's a great idea. So, you know, it's so funny. Like, I haven't talked to a lot of people who talk about this. I always call it like syncing our nervous system. I'm a psychotherapist by trade first, and then, you know, got into the more energy modalities. And that was my first gift to develop too, was feeling what it feels like to be inside their body. And at first I didn't know what was going on. I just thought, why do I have anxiety when this client walks into the room? Or why do I start to feel short of breath? And I started to realize, wait, it's not mine. And I'd start to speak it. But it was like this process of learning how to trust what my body was trying to say and realizing that not everything I'm feeling was my own. And so that took some time and some discernment. So let me ask you this: how did you learn to trust yourself? Because I feel like at the end of the day, intuitive development is trusting yourself and taking your sovereignty in your authority.
Yeah, I do believe my guides really helped me with this one, because I did feel like I wanted some type of validation. Like I needed to know this is real. And it just happened naturally, because when I would express and tell people this is what I'm feeling, this is what's going on, and I would bring up people or places, and they would say, "How did you know that?" And then I would be like, and then from those experiences,
Yeah.
I learned to just trust that it was coming through me, and this is what I was picking up on, and to disconnect more from trying to control anything. That was so helpful, and I think it brought it to a new level for me, where I just like say I'm open, whatever comes through, that's for the best of the session, for whatever this person needs is what I want, like to be a conduit to help them with. And the feedback, it's just the feedback from the clients that really makes me feel confident in my personal gifts and what I pick up on.
Absolutely. Yeah. At some point, you're just like, okay, you know what I mean? It's too many coincidences to know that it's a coincidence. It's not. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really mind blowing. And such a gift to be able to support people, as they are navigating their own lives. So let's go back to kind of this galactic energy and, finding yourself in the Orion star system. I'm really curious because your journey, we just have so many parallels, you and I, in discovering our galactic origins and our soul's roots. And I don't know about you, but it's almost like sometimes we get concepts that it feels like we have to unspool. And then as you start to like unspool the concept, you get validation of like, oh my gosh, I didn't understand at the time, but this is connected to this. And it's almost like this little journey of like breadcrumbs and following the breadcrumbs. And so I'd love to hear about your
That's funny. It was in my mind was the breadcrumb trail before you started talking. So I'm like, oh, we're communicating telepathically now.
Beautiful.
So when you're talking about coincidences, I was like thinking synchronicities, and then I always tell people, look for the synchronicities. If it's something you're thinking about, all of a sudden somebody says something, or you read something, or two people that don't know each other are saying the same thing to you. It's like the breadcrumb trail. This is like the universe speaking to you. Your guides speaking to you.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love the breadcrumb trail. I was really drawn to getting a tattoo for my mom after she passed. And after she passed, there was everything with the number 5. So for a long time, I had coined myself She Follows Fives online. And I was obsessed with 5s because they kept showing up, and that was my connection to my mom. And I went to get a tattoo of 555, the angel number, and so that angel number is everything about change. It has to do with change. And for my whole life, one of the quotes that I loved was, the only constant in life is change. So when it showed up after she died, and she died at 523, I immediately saw 5s on each side, and then from there it was just 5s everywhere. So I went for the tattoo. And the night before, I was looking on Pinterest, and I was really drawn to the Eye of Ra. I didn't know what it was. I don't really have, even to this day, an extensive knowledge of the Egyptians and of Ra, but I found out later Ra is the sun god. And it was kind of part of the breadcrumb trail to lead me into learning more about my origins. So from that, I had picked up certain books, I had looked into different things, and eventually I realized I was being like visually drawn to Orion's belt. And I've never been into the stars. Like I wasn't the kind of kid that sat and like looked at the stars, and I wasn't. Not that I can remember anyways.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I was very drawn to the stars. and especially Orion's Belt. And I'm like, this is so interesting. And one night, I was reading something about Ra and then Osiris, and I found a video online, and it was talking about how they're very connected to the star systems, and then specifically Orion's Belt and some of the stars around there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is this why like I wanted to get these tattoos? And I'm trying to think. I felt in the moment almost like I'm from there. Just That's just how I felt.
Yeah.
And I later had a dream that I was in this underwater, like I was driving to the airport with people, and all of a sudden I realized that we were underwater, and I freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna drown. And then I realized it's totally normal. And when I looked it up, Mintaka is an underwater world, that star system.
Wow.
And I'm like, that makes sense. So I felt like I had went back there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I don't know, I got so much comfort out of that download and that realization that that's my original home.
Yeah.
I can't really explain it better than that. That's just the nature of how it happened.
When you know, you know. But let me ask you this, because I feel like more and more people are having these experiences of waking up to their cosmic origins, or having encounters or contact. Why now, from your perspective?
Well, I know a lot about the Pleiades and the Pleiadian agenda. There's a book about it, how our planet has kind of shifted and gone through this space in the universe that has shifted the energy on Earth. And because of that frequency change, people are beginning to physically change, and their bodies are changing and being upgraded to new frequencies, higher frequencies, ones of authenticity and joy and love. And it's almost like a mass awakening from my understanding. So I'm noticing it myself on a personal level, where I go out with people that have no connection with the energy work or the spiritual aspect or the cosmic aspect of the things that I study and learn on my own. And they say the most profound things to me about my intuition, and I'm listening to my body, and all of a sudden I realize this, and just a lot of like they're waking up. Yeah. Like people are just waking up, and I just look at them and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's happening. It's happening.
It really is.
But I just think it has to do with the shift in the planet. Mm-hmm. And it's like everything has a life cycle. You know, the trees, a seed going from a seed to a flower or a plant. And I think the earth is the same. As we rotate through the universe, I think we go through different life cycles, and I feel really grateful to be alive during this cycle, because it's a beautiful thing watching the energy shift. I mean, there's a lot of things that also have to fall away during that process, and it can be really challenging and very emotional, and it's not always easy. Like there's a lot of discomfort that's happening and things that people aren't happy about, but I feel like I know it's for the greater good of the planet and for us, and it's just the way that the cycle goes.
I'm so glad I asked you this question, because I'll be honest, like your perspective feels like a breath of fresh air. You know, there's so much like talk of gloom and doom right now. And I love this way you explain it, of it just being a natural cycle, just part of our evolution, like the life cycle of a tree. Right. We're just evolving as we should, you know?
Right.
And that landed in my body. I mean, I felt emotional as you were talking about that, because it just feels so organic and true, you know, in my system as you were explaining that. So thanks for that perspective. And
yeah.
And I feel like, you know, the darkness has always been there. And now with the new light coming onto the planet, it just can't hide anymore. Nothing's changed.
Right. It's all being exposed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it is.
Yeah, I'm a big believer. The dawn of disclosure.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Absolutely. And I think it's mirroring what so many people, when we say people are waking up, it's like they're shifting their energy inward and they're looking at their own darkness and they're excavating their own trauma and they're wanting to know who they are outside of the constructs that they've been taught or into. And it's almost like we're going through that, you know, as within, so without, on a planetary level too. And it is an exciting time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Beautiful. Well, where can people find you? If people are listening today and they're resonating with your work and they want to have an experience like this or get to know themselves on a deeper level, how would they find you?
So my website is metanoiamindful.com, and I am located in Connecticut. So if you're located in Connecticut, I'm in Farmington, and my office is at the Bridge Healing Arts Center. But you can definitely reach me through my website online, and all of my contact information is on there. So I hope to talk to whoever is interested in learning more about, you know, their soul map. If they're looking to make change, if they're looking to do some energy work, I'm here for that. So happy to be of service.
Thank you. And I'm going to link everything that you just said in the show notes. If you guys are watching and you know you can benefit from this and you're ready to learn more about who you are in an expanded way, or if you know somebody who could benefit from working with Wind, feel free to share this podcast episode so that they can work with her too. Wind, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I love everything that you're doing and what you represent. And this conversation was more than I anticipated. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Until next time. Okay.